Good day and good evening and welcome to Dailies Hangout stream with me, Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. As usual, we'll go down the daily roulette list. We will skip main scenario quest, guild hest, mentor and frontline, and then we will do P12, and then we will do Thalea. And that's it. I will be playing only Monk. Fortunately, that is just me who's playing only Monk, because it would be very hard to do a lot of this content if we were all just playing Monk. But that's the plan. With that said, hey Derby, hey Gazel, hey Fishbread, hey Anolana, hey Lexi, hey Darth, hey Not the Wheel, hey Rust, and hey Liv. Hope you're all doing very well. But yeah, the way this works, as I've usually done it, is that when I'm about to do a roulette, I will like call out where we're going, and then I'll move over to a spot in the room, or in the area. This isn't the room, this is a garden, and so you come over to me if you want to join. That way I can find people to invite. I'll try to keep a list of who I've just had in the group so that everyone gets to play, so it's not just I bring the same 3 people the entire stream, for example. But that's my problem. With that said, what the monk doing range attacks? Is that what enlightenment is? Is that the monk just got enlightened and was like, I don't actually have a ranged attack. Maybe... Because enlightenment is like halfway to a ranged attack. Like it's almost a ranged attack. But Fishbread, if you enjoy the game, why did you stop playing? Hey Cat, hey Zach, hey Cyberbox, and hey Tristan, and hey Cat. Hope you're all doing very well. 5 monks in alliance raid. That would be quite a power move, yes. Hey Ardell, hope you're doing well. And thank you, Darth. Said like the stream. I can say that actually like liking things on YouTube, like a stream for example, does tell the algorithm that, oh, this is actually good. So it like prioritizes sharing it. So it does help. It isn't just, you know, YouTuber man weird. So I do appreciate it. Level 100 skill for Monk is a ranged attack. That's them throwing a rock for 1 damage. that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing as like just like a fake out. And the reason why I think that would be amazing is because I think like in Stormblood, I feel like monks were already like looking at Shadowbringers like, I don't feel like we need anything. Then Square Enix found something to give them anyway. That's how you got 6-sided star. And then the monks in like Shadowbringers were like, I don't feel like we really need anything. Then they reworked Monk, and then the monk still went, I don't really feel like we need anything. And then they were like, okay, here you have Masterful Blitz and, I don't know, an upgrade to Masterful Blitz as your level 90. So, like, it does feel like Monk has to be reinvented to give them something, like, actually interesting and new. So I could absolutely see them just go, I don't know, give them a ranged attack? Hey Silvermint, hope you're doing well. And hey Roy, hope you're doing well as well. And Philippe. I don't imagine that Monk will get like completely reworked in Dawn Trail, but they have got a lot of changes. Masterful Blitz being an Endwalker change. Throw stone is a tactics ability anyway. Oh yeah. Right then, so we will start with Expert Roulette. If you would like to come along for Expert Roulette, come on over to me. Oh boy. We have like 1.5 groups. Hey, Giraheen. Hope you're doing well. Fishbread, the thing is, we don't know for sure because we've had jobs be like announced, like Summoners getting a rework, like came Endwalker. Monk, as far as I know, wasn't like announced like they're getting a major rework, but Monk was reworked quite substantially with the introduction of Masterful Blitz. So the thing we know is that Astrologian and Dragoon are definitely getting reworked, but anything could happen. Anything. We could wake up to Dawn Trail being like, oh yeah, Warrior doesn't have any release anymore. It could happen. We don't know. The only thing we know is that we've been told outright that Astrologian and Dragoon are getting reworks. We don't know if there's anyone else who's getting anything significant. I do know that I read a few months back that Yoshi P was like, oh yeah, there's major changes to a lot of jobs. But he might have said that every time, right? Like Paladin before Endwalker, like a major change to Paladin could be the introduction of the Blades combo. That isn't a major change, but we don't know what Yoshi P's point of reference is for that. That is also true, Dart, that there might be changes specifically to make some new edition work. Right. Yeah, previously I've had the problem of not actually keeping track of who I've had in the group or not, so this time I have a little notepad I'm writing down, so that doesn't mean that you don't get that everyone only gets one. It's just that I don't bring the same 3 people every time if we have a lot of people that want to play. Let's see if I remember how to monk. I could have done that a little better. Oh well. Still spent everything in time. Lunar Subterrane, what are the odds? 50%. But that means that if 11 is coming, this might be the first time in weeks that we don't, that the 11 isn't met with the fish. So much enlightenment. Do you all feel very enlightened with all this chakra I'm generating? Hey Ham, hope you're doing well. Lalio to you. Maybe there's no need for me to use Riddle of Wind there, but here we are. Whoops. That was not optimal, but it's fine. I did manage to do both of the masterful blitzes in time. It's close enough. The key thing with Monk is a lesson in sometimes it's better to do something than being too caught up in doing the right thing. Oh, I thought I made that. Thank you. I really thought I made that one. That's good to hear, not the wheel. Did I? I guess I should have refreshed Twin Snakes before. That you have a good experience with your first melee job. Because if you switch from a healer to a melee, that is a pretty big change in the way that you play. Twin snakes! They're multiplying.
Hurry, Golbez! The city is already overrun!
Hurry, Golbez! Bring a blade!
And now the capital. Nothing is exempt from their avarice. Have at you!
Oh man, when the mobs are dying so fast, you're like, I want to finish my burst. Wait, I still have damage. I still have more damage to give.
I think not.
Hey Matsuru, hope you're doing well. Hmm, 72,000, that's pretty nice.
This one is dangerous. Have care, Golbez.
Not the wheels have been a white mage for 8 years. Wow! Yeah, that's a long time with just one job. But hey, like if you get it right first try, why change on perfection, right? You found exactly the one for you in the first try. You don't want to play anything else, then there's no reason to. I should not have used my buffs at that moment. That was extremely inefficient of me, and I'm being an idiot now. Just collecting vulnerability stacks. I have to play better for Gazel's sake, not mine. Oh yeah, the Wondrous Tales. I keep forgetting to bring them. Should not have used Boot Shine there. This is a really confusing fight to play Monk. It feels like the boss leaves melee range with the dashes and that right when you actually want to use perfect balance. That really sucks. Hey Zaf, hope you're doing well. And hey Oscar, hope you're doing well as well.
Dare say we'll be faster if we split up.
Zav, I'm late because I got Thorn March Extreme in Roulette. Oh, I could imagine that would be way harder to understand now when the Extreme version is nothing like the normal version, huh? Weird. I'd actually never considered that. Spin. Well, the good news there, not the wheel, is that you could just play, like, you could try everything. You could just try everything. Try everything! It would take a while to level everything, of course, but it's more the principle is that you can do whatever you want.
So be it. I will fight you with all my strength.
Why is it only my riddle of fire who's kinda off? Very annoying. Very annoying.
I need power. Light or dark, it matters not.
Don't think that should have been Twin Snakes in retrospect. Worked out in the end. Hey Caetsu, hope you're doing well.
Such savagery ill suits you.
Such savagery ill suits you. Such bladery ill suits you. I feel like there's a lot of jobs that are really hard to play if you have like a non-stellar ping, to say the least. So surprisingly many.
Let's see how you fare now.
But yeah, Machinist is definitely one of them. Like, I'd say weirdly that Reaper's also there. Because of how it just messes with your ability to do the Enshroud properly. You just can't. You just can't. You just have to settle for it being awkward. What blades? You're playing Monk. Oh no, his blade! You know, his raging blades that we have to fear.
Even so, I'll not be bested.
Roy says, is Bard difficult? It's challenging. It is absolutely one of the jobs that require your full attention to get it right. But the thing is with these jobs that are, you could say, more random, is that they have a tendency to be a lot more forgiving. It's the same with, well, random and high pace. Like, Monk is the same in that you can get away with making a lot of mistakes and you'll still do pretty good as long as you're, like, sticking to the fundamentals pretty well as a Monk. I also just realized that I'm not going to be using Limit Break here because the boss is too close to dead. I looked at it earlier when we had LB1 and then my burst came up. But yeah, Gazel did announce that I should use it. How much would you say it takes leveling from 1 to 90? It can take a while. Hard to say. It depends on how you do it. And what strategies you use, whether you have friends to play with, so on and so forth. But it will probably take like some days for a lot of players. Like for most players it'll take some days. If you're... And just for the record, if you're a new player and you're wondering how long it'll take to get to level 90 the first time, it actually is completely irrelevant because most of the content you want to use being level 94, you have to do the MSQ to unlock anyway. So it doesn't really help you to power grind up to level 90. You just have to do the MSQ. Ham says, since the hypercharge change, you at least get your full rotation with a bad ping. The main problem with lagging on Machinist is that if your latency is high enough, you cannot single weave properly in the hypercharge window, which means that it becomes really hard to do, you know, the ricochet and gauze round weaving that is kind of expected. Like you can... Like, if you spend all of your gauze rounds and all of your ricochets leading up to a hypercharge window, you can just, like, not weave them during the hypercharge window, then spend them afterwards where you have space. But that is, of course, a huge departure from how you'd normally play Machinist. Yeah, Hydrosity, I would recommend just doing some dailies then. Like, I put up a leveling guide somewhat recently, and a remake of a leveling guide, you could even say. And there the main point to make the most of your leveling is to, like, queue for stuff, use your roulettes, and then spend the downtime on things that give decent XP while you're at it anyway. That could help if you don't play on peak hours, so like the queue times are longer. Hey Cyanide, hope you're doing well. And we have a lot of people that came in during the roulette. Right then. Thank you, Balut. You think so? Right then. Next up, we're doing level 90 dungeons. If you would like to join with level 90 dungeons, come on over here. Well, thank you. There are a lot of people that complain about my toolbox in the bottom right here, so that's why I ask. Let me just do this. Right. There's a possibility. Well, we're once again at a point where we have like 1.5 groups. Is the other group still in? Or did they never go? Oh, you were, some of you were the other group. Alright, well that explains that. You know what, Darth? I also stick with jobs like Dancer if I don't want to, like, go super hard, like Summoner, Dancer. Personally, like in casual content, I also do Samurai if I'm not feeling like going super crazy. Although Samurai, you can do a lot if you actually try, right? Again, it's not as simple as Summoner. But that's what I do. Exactly, Gideon. It's the job swap buttons. Oh, dead ends. If you're watching and you are in like the Endwalker MSQ, this dungeon is kinda spoilery, just for your own sake.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful.
And the reason why I say Endwalker is because the characters in the dungeon that might be spoilery are Endwalker specific. So if you're further back than that, then maybe you can't remember anyway when you finally get to this point.
The more its people clung to life, the more they suffered.
Hey, Elvariant. Hope you're doing well. Think I am. Someone takes a while to pop when leveling? Do you mean like as in before it gets interesting?
But their fellow
Because I feel like the particular quote-unquote problem with Summoner is that it already has like 90% of its base rotation at level 22. This is what causes a lot of players to find it like not much is happening. But I get what you mean. Echo, hope you're doing well. Spin. Doesn't look like it was needed, but it just occurred to me this pull is sometimes a little rough, so while I had a weave, I just do mantra. I get what you mean there, Gazla. The low-level version of Bahamut, the Ether Charge, is a little dull. I will say, practically,
those who live,
like in how you actually use it, it is a little more interesting because that one, because it is like not instant casts, you can optimize by using swift cast at a good time. Oh yeah, as I usually mention when we're doing this, if you're having trouble with this boss, just remember, make sure you have the wind in your back. Specifically in your back. Makes it way easier to dodge this mechanic. no, Gazel, I mean the ruin casts that have a potency boost. Like, because of that, if you swift cast the last ruin, you can sneak that in while Ether Charge is still active, leading to a significant potency gain. You know, 50 potency is 50 potency, right? Yeah, kind of, Guzzle. It's kind of like the old Bahamut system where you stockpiled, it's like before the rework, where you stockpiled your 4 Ruin 4 casts to sneak in as many attacks at the end as possible. Something like that. Hey Angel and hey Simplex, hope you're doing well.
In a faraway place, a brilliant star eradicated disease. Before destroying the self-same lives it had saved.
Left standing alone on the second boss? Is that a problem?
Its people sought ever greater freedoms no matter the cost.
Oh, that's what you meant. I thought you meant like on the first boss there is a particular time where you would rather not be left alone. But on the second boss, specifically in contrast to the first boss, there are multiple mechanics that makes it somewhat of a bad idea to stack too closely. Which is why I was thinking, like, what? Why would you care about whether you stood alone or not? Who cares about that? Well, that's strange, Cole. Well, I'm glad you realized that you were behind now instead of like an hour in. You're like, why is everyone talking into the future? I don't think I've had that happen myself before. That is quite strange. Yeah! Apparently that was in time. I wasn't really convinced I made that, but Earth's reply. I should have used twin snakes there. Brah, brah, brah. Once again, a case of with monks sometimes that it is a little more important you do something than the absolutely most right thing. No true north? Yeah, exactly. I was focused on making sure other things were happening, but I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I could have used true north there for some free damage. There's no reason for me to use perfect balance there. That was really, really wasteful.
Asked, what is the point? There were none left to answer.
An interesting nickname, Cat. Because I swear the hardest thing about this dungeon is surviving Debbie Downer's dialogue. She's trying her best.
Father still existed as
It's not her fault that she was programmed to be depressed.
when none remembered life's trials.
Yeah, exactly, guys. That is actually pretty funny. The thing I was thinking about was precisely that I had a run in Dead Ends a long time ago where I was teaching a few friends how to do it. And on the first boss, I was like, I can put like a triangle on me, so I can just highlight where it's safe to be. And they appreciated that very much. Then we get to the second boss, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take off the safety triangle now? And they're like, wait, why? I'm like, well, you see, you'll understand. Because the problem being that, well, if you stack together like that, then you're all going to die, so it just doesn't work.
What if people had gained from ease? They lost to apathy.
Yeah, the Dorito give it, the Dorito take it away. Exactly. That is also why you shouldn't get too attached to the safety Dorito, because you don't know when the person who's serving it goes, I can't, or they get it wrong. How is my Riddle of Fire so drifted? Raid buff Drifto! It is indeed a riddle. It's actually a Riddle of Fire. It's burning into my mind. Whee!
So they created the kindest, most gentle.
Why did I start with an AoE attack? That was Yeah, I don't know what I intended to accomplish with that one. Let's start with Shadow of the Destroyer. It's very effective on AoE, right? There's one target. Oh. It'll be fine. I'm sure I'll do good damage.
Its steps were light, and its gift was as painless as it was beautiful.
Ah, yes, that configuration. Because the boss is trash. Wow. If only it was more of them then.
Bathed in its golden glow, they all slept happily ever after.
It's trying its best. No! This is my dog. Does it also make you sleep ever after cyanide? Does it also prance around the room like this? I spy with my little eye that my burst is coming up in a moment. Well, a burst is coming up at least. Not limit break blade. That's how we find the blade. There it is. We found it. Looked around in the inventory for a day. While you were punching things, he studied the blade. That says, I discovered that the last boss has a soft enrage. If you don't kill fast enough, Warm Glow will start doing 90% of your HP. I don't think Warm Glow increases in damage. It's just that as you run out of cooldowns to respond to it, it feels like it does more damage. But you're right that Warm Glow is like one of the most effective ways to like wipe the group. Because it hits really hard for like a dungeon AoE. Yeah, thank you, Silvermint. Cat Monk Shiro says, pretty sure this boss ended lives canonically. It did. It just was presented in a nicer way. Astravi says, for Monk, do you just use the 90 seconds cooldown on cooldown and wait for 2 minutes? Riddle of Wind, you get more value out of it by just using it on cooldown. It's better to just use it on cooldown. With these kinds of things, there's always like an asterisk that is like, but there are exceptions. But those exceptions are usually like, maybe in a particular Savage Raid encounter or an ultimate or something where you might benefit from not using it at a one particular point and it's better to save it. That's like the thing with Burst in general, that there can be exceptions, but the general idea is just use Riddle of Wind cooldown. As Chelsea says, for the most part, just use things on cooldown. The point of an opener is partly to make sure that all of your things line up right, and then you just use them on cooldown for the rest of the fight. Zarb says the Doom in the last boss is a dumb variant that just doesn't even hint at you that you need to heal to full, and most players just don't know that unless they've been told. A part of the problem with that is that it's not very easy to give an indicator that you have to heal to full. Like with Doom mechanics, the checklist is, does it have the blue line? No, then you can't use Asuna. Is there some sort of thing on the floor? No. Okay, in that case, it's probably heal to full. And that's like a big probably heal to full. It's not like you might just be dead. Like there just mightn't be no solution and you just die. But like that's the procedure, and the problem with this boss is that the attacks that actually apply the Doom debuff also hit really hard, and the boss hits really hard. So the healer's like already drained and used other stuff, then two guys get the Doom debuff, and you're sitting there like, how many benedictions do you think I have? And then they die, potentially. Yeah, basically, yeah, Silvermint. The sequence is there a blue bar over it? Is there something on the floor? And then you have to heal to full. The problem is that what's going to happen is that you're going to go, no blue line, look around the room, and now the person's timer is so low you can't save them in time. Hey, Yavana, hope you're doing well. Right, next up we're doing 5, 6, 7, 8. If you want to join me for that, come on over to me. As I said earlier, I'm just writing down who I've got so that if there's someone who just feels like they keep getting like not picked, eventually I'll look at the list and be like, oh, I have like this is the one person who hasn't had a go yet. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Astravi, with there's something on the floor, like a glowing circle or something. Like that's where I'm like, option 1, is there a blue line over the Doom debuff? Because if there is, then it's removable with Ishuna. And then the second one is it a boss mechanic? Like, are you supposed to deal with it somehow? And if none of those are the case, then it's usually heal to full. I don't know how you would signal to a player with an icon that it's heal to full. Right. Let's see, we have level 80 players. I'm thinking... Gimlet Dark. Let's say Gimlet Dark. Wouldn't it be wild if I guessed correctly? Okay, I would never have guessed that one. Keep up the leg, obviously. I would never have guessed Somal. I was like, I know that we have I believe Rust is still working their way through the MSQ, so I wasn't sure if I should say Shadowbringers max level stuff. But not only that, this is an optional dungeon. At least I'm level 60. And we have Howling Fist. Actually, I think we'll do this. Oh. It's a little easier. I don't have any buffs to manage other than perfect balance. Yeah, time for the boss with the best name. Ah, yes, everyone remembers. Lava Scorpion. They tremble at the mere mention of its name. It's way easier, this. Level 60 monk. Easy mode. No Riddle of Fire, Brotherhood, anything. Yeah, I wouldn't... Like, I was actually also thinking of Strabi, maybe the twinning? That would be cool. But, yeah, nope. Get a dungeon that, I didn't even know we all had unlocked here. The twinning is awesome. It's also very soloable by a lone warrior. I'm now thinking, since I don't have any buffs to manage, I should be better about managing to use my perfect balance when there's actually divination up. Should have thought about that. Well, keep that in mind for the future. The tripling. Few expansions later, we have the quadrupling. Finish. Never mind. Well, I'll just not use Tornado Kick then. I'll just sit on this Tornado Kick. Have you done Sword Kai since the rework? I believe Small Kai reached Sword Kai with the rework. Can't remember exactly. Oscar says, what does a solo warrior mitigation rotation look like? Just invuln or kitchen sink between raw and tuition? It's not far off. Okay, it kind of depends on how much damage you're taking. But yeah, basically, you're using enough cooldowns that you can stay alive to see the like the next raw intuition. That's the only thing you're worried about. But if you can't stay alive to the next raw intuition, then your mitigation rotation is the infamous JoJo move. If you've heard about it, it's called Run Away. And that actually works. It genuinely works. So like you use enough cooldown to like survive between your bursts. Or survive between your raw intuition uses. But if you run out of cooldowns and you know you're going to die otherwise, then you just run. You strategically reposition. We can call it that as well. But yes, just running away is surprisingly effective. And I can also say that this strategy also works if you just have like... If you have ended up pulling more than you can actually manage, then running away is also a strategy. It's not something that your group is going to like you for, but it is still effective. You can still do it if you need to. Like, you may have seen me more so on Small Kai streams, but you may have seen me specifically run away for a second. Like, just step away from the enemies so that everyone gets delayed by a second. Just enough that my healer can heal me. So, like, don't knock it till you try it. Running away. It's a very effective mitigation. And I'm not joking with that, by the way, Oscar. I'm not joking. Even though it might sound like I'm joking. Usually when I do it on the solo challenge streams, I use like... I'll start by using, you know, Raw Intuition, and then when that runs out, I'll use Vengeance, and then I'll like weigh whether do I need more than that, and if I need more than that, then I'll use more than that. And the only problem, the only thing you have to worry about with your mitigation sequence is, will I still be alive to use Raw Intuition? So like if the enemies like if you have 100k HP, hypothetically, just use a simple number. If you have 100k HP and the enemies are hurting you for like 10k every 2 seconds combined, then you can go, well, I'll have Raw Intuition in like 20 seconds. Like my first heal from Raw Intuition is coming in 20 seconds. So if they're dealing 10k every 2 seconds combined, then you have to be sure, like, because you will have a minuscule amount of like passive recovery while all that is happening, or use a Hyper Potion indeed, to make sure that you can just barely make it. Alternatively, you go, well, I'll use Reprisal, then they'll do 9k for a few hits, and then I'll have just barely enough HP to make it. The overlay is being a meme again. Thank you, Giraheen. Yeah, Oscar, as you get to higher level stuff, I believe it, like, Warrior starts to peak the Hyper Potion limit, like, near the end of Shadowbringers content. Oh, this is going to hurt, I think. Or at the start of Endwalker content, something like that. But, like, 11k healing is 11k healing. Does passive HP recovery work when you're taking damage? Yes, it does. Absolutely does. Have you ever, like, if you don't believe me, try and go unsynced into, like, a level 70 dungeon as a level 90 tank. Pull some mobs and get hit. Observe that for some reason, without you doing anything, you will still slowly recover HP. That is also what makes it so that you can basically just AFK in like unsynced, really low level content. This sometimes comes up when I'm testing stuff. But yeah, it does work. I think it's like 1% of your HP every tick, something like that. Like when you get your MP ticks, you also get like 1% of your HP recovery. It's not a lot, right? But it adds up. Quickly adds up. But it is a kind of effect that is really easy to miss, because it just fades into the background in the middle of a fight, right? There's regen when you're unsynced. There's regen when you're synced. It wasn't supposed to be like it only works when you're unsynced. It was more to say that if you go into content unsynced, the enemies do so little damage that they can't actually kill you because you regen too fast. Hey Traverse and Bronto, hope you're both doing well. How's the Dragon Cake stream going? Well, I'm not using as much Dragon Cake as I could. But you can see we've landed in a very common dungeon. You know, the kind that you see every day. What? Guzzle, are you also in Sumal Hard? Did we get 2 of these? Cyanide says, I got this dungeon yesterday. What's happening? Why is this dungeon suddenly popular? Yeah, I can show you the combat region. It's not about whether you're actively taking damage or not. It's about whether you're in combat or not. You can see if I do this, and then this. The combat MP region, combat HP region. I recover around 800 HP every 3 seconds. You know, around. But yeah. It's a really, really specific thing. I heard someone just the other day, so you know, recently I put out a video where I said like 5 mistakes healers make. A mistake someone pointed out was that, and they were saying it as, this is something that I myself do. They said that like this is something they could do better, is if you're in a dungeon or a raid, you know, you're in a boss fight, people are not topped up, like they don't have full HP, but the boss isn't going to do anything. Like, it isn't going to do anything. Then they said, I should be better about letting people passively recover. I don't have to use Medica 2, for example. I don't have to do that. You don't even have, like, you don't have to use Physis. You can just, like, kind of let them heal. There's also the counter argument that healers usually are not so strapped for resources that they would need to do that. But it's more the principle that if you get everyone topped up, then it means that you're essentially losing out on 1% of their HP in healing every 3 seconds. Hypothetically. It's a little bit like the same logic as if you put regen on someone with full HP, then all that healing just goes into the ether. Traverse says, on the topic of healers, I'm leveling Astrologian and have a card question. If you only have range DPS and get a melee card, do you give it to the DPS or the tank? Basically, is 3% on a DPS better than 6% on the tank? I would say you put the melee card on the tank, unless 1, your tank is garbage, 2, your tank is okay, but one of the range DPS are crazy good. The reason for this is that tanks usually do over half of the DPS of a DPS job. And this is even more, like, this is more true with certain jobs. Like, for example, a tank is much more likely to be able to catch up to a dancer than they are to a black mage. But the point is, if we assume you don't have a DPS meter, if you had a DPS meter, you would be able to see it, right? But if we assume we don't have a DPS meter because, you know, legal, then the question is, does it seem like the tank knows what they're doing? Because if they do, then usually the tank will be better than, like, putting it on the tank will be better than putting on the DPS, because tanks do more than half of the damage of a DPS job. And that is always the case. That if the, like, the key thing, as I'm saying, is if the tank is playing unpredictably bad, then there's a reasonable chance they're not doing over half the damage of the DPS player that you had as the alternative option. And the reason why I'm saying the tank or the DPS is because, once again, remember, sometimes people miss the important part of these kinds of conversations, is if you have the choice between putting a melee card on a tank or a range DPS, you're choosing between, if the tank is doing, to just do some simple numbers, if the tank is doing 6k DPS and the DPS is doing 10k, then you're choosing between increasing the 6k by 6% or the 10k by 3%. And obviously, if the tank had been doing 5k DPS, then 6% of 5k is the same as 3% of 10k, so it wouldn't matter. But tanks usually do more than half of the damage of a DPS. Usually. Ham says you could also check the gear at the start to see if there's a big difference. You could do that too. You can also check their HP, because usually that's a pretty good indicator of whether someone is particularly undergeared. The important part, Traverse, is that you play the card. Because the power difference, like if you have the choice between a tank or a ranged DPS, the power difference like on who you play the card on is usually a lot tighter. It might not matter that much who you play it on. The important part is that you play it. And more importantly still, this is something that I've talked about, what I call Astrologian 101. When you draw a card, you're looking at whether you want the sign on the card. You're not looking on whether you want the actual card. That's exactly why you're in the position of, so I have a melee card, but I don't have any melee DPS. Because you're not going to redraw that if it has the sign you want. Is the boss taking longer to kill than normal? Put the card on the tank because the DPS is bad. Yeah, that could also make sense. It could also make sense. And also that, Ostravi, doing something is better than trying to do the right thing. Focusing on doing the right thing in particular. I don't know if I'm a famous streamer unless you're talking about someone else. But I did say that just early on this stream, right? Right, let's see. When do I put the card on the half-dead white mage with 7 bone stacks? If everyone else is dead? I think that's the time. Like, more importantly, when do you play your card on the white mage? Red Birdie says, why are you playing cards instead of dressing? A good point. Maybe it's because you're like you don't have MP to actually do something. Right. Next, we're doing leveling roulette. If you'd like to join me for that, come on over to me. We have so many people here. Let me just, wait, it's better if I do this, I think. Don't think there's anyone. People are leaving. People are fleeing. Gaza is making a second group. We're almost at the point where we could have 3 groups. Remember to turn on limited leveling on the other groups. If they're on the other group or groups, depending on how many we're making. Wow. It looks like we could actually have 3 full. We have a group there. I don't know why Gaza was hiding over there. We could have 3 groups. Vivi says, here's something I wonder if aggro lists the best judge for dancer partner. I've seen a lot of Black Mage Summoner Machinist be 2 or 3 on the table ahead of melee. Is that the sign to partner them? It could be. Usually with DPS jobs, that can be a sign. It is worth mentioning that healing also generates some enmity. Not a lot in comparison. And to give an example, while Summoner does actually produce a reasonable amount of healing with Phoenix, Phoenix's healing is mainly a heal over time effect, and heal over time effects do not generate enmity. So if you have a Summoner in your group who's winning on enmity, then that Summoner might be doing something right. Or the rest of your group might be doing something wrong. But aggro list is not perfect. Like, Vivi, I'm just saying aggro list is not perfect, but it is like an okay indicator. Like, if someone is clearly ahead and stays ahead for the entire run, then it's probably likely they're doing the most personal damage, and that's what matters more. Amu says, I've won on enmity as summoner, but mostly just from doing insane burst. That's also true. That is also why I'm saying if, you know, they keep the lead, like if you stay ahead, then you have, like, as a dancer, a sign to go, oh, I should probably move my dance partner over there. But this is, you know, casual content context. And a key thing to keep in mind with casual content context, is that priority list you're giving there, is assuming that the person you're giving it to knows what they're doing. But in casual content, they might not. You might have the worst samurai in the game. And a dancer that actually knows how to play, and everyone in between are kind of whatever. So it actually becomes better to, like, co-dance with the other dancer. That is unlikely, to put it nicely. Oh, we have Aishia Scope. If you are in the middle of the Endwalker MSQ story, this is quite spoilery. It might even be spoilery if you're not there. And this is a pretty big one for the story. I should not use my second perfect balance here. That 2-ad pull is weird. I don't understand why we have this. Hey Jack, hope you're doing well. Samurai. And yeah, exactly. No. That was. I think that was also what we like. That is generally the good advice. There is, like, try to look at the enmity list. If someone stays ahead quite reliably, then that is usually a good sign that they're doing well. Usually. The funniest part about this pull is that these mobs are so perfectly spaced out that you can't really, like, it's actually hard to stand so you can hit all 5. Stripey says, when the range has more health than the melee, you know what to do. I have actually been in situations where there was a ranged with way more HP than a melee, and the melee still did better damage. Or at least appeared to. Oh boy. I think I flipped some of my combo sequences. Still not going to be confusing for the rest of this boss fight. And before I forget that I need to not stand on those lines. That's good to hear, Roy. It isn't as scary as it might look. The scary part, the main scary part is just, in my opinion, the hardest part about Monk is how you have to think a little faster than with other jobs, and because your rotation is more free flowing, there's more possible answers on each step. But it's not that bad. As I said earlier, doing something is better than doing nothing. Or doing something is better than trying to do the right thing. And then failing. Is the little extra part that I leave out. Perfect balance at level 50 just really sucks, Amos. My best suggestion there is try to use them in pairs, because as you don't have, since you don't have Masterful Blitz, Perfect Balance is like a curse, because it gives you 6 steps of whatever you want, so you can just do like Dragon Kick Boot Shine 6 times in a row, but it comes with the caveat that you lose your stance and you have to start over from, no stance Dragon Kick, which is not ideal. Right? It's not ideal. It's not exactly how we would like to have it, but I mean, it's better than nothing. Like, a Masterful Blitz is net positive. It's just, it's really hard to use it well. Kills is wild. They rehashed this boss and didn't use any of the iconic mechanics. She did use some, they did reuse some names. You have to remember that the boss they rehashed there is the final boss of Castor Meridianum. They just, used a different model. I escaped into a wall.